If you stay with me until the very end of this story, you'll understand why a single whispered sentence on Christmas Eve changed 3 lives forever. And if stories like this touch your heart, take a moment right now to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because every like helps these stories reach someone who needs them, and every subscription keeps this little light of hope alive. Snow fell softly outside the glass walls of the most expensive penthouse in the city, but inside, everything felt cold. Ethan Blackwood, the CEO everyone feared and admired, stood alone with a crystal glass in his hand, staring at a skyline he technically owned but emotionally felt disconnected from. At 46, he had wealth beyond imagination, awards lining his office shelves, and a name that could open any door. Yet on this Christmas Eve, the silence around him was so loud it felt like it was pressing against his chest. No laughter echoed through the rooms, no smell of home-cooked food filled the air, and no one was waiting for him to come home. Just another successful man with nowhere to belong. He loosened his tie, something he rarely did, and looked at the clock. 7:18 p.m. He could attend another empty charity gala, or sit through another board call, but instead, something unfamiliar stirred in him. A memory surfaced, uninvited and sharp, of a small living room, mismatched ornaments on a crooked tree, and a father who used to lift him onto his shoulders so he could place the star on top. That father was gone now, and so was that version of Ethan. On a sudden impulse, Ethan grabbed his coat and left the penthouse. His driver asked where they were going, and Ethan hesitated before answering, "Just drive." The car moved through neighborhoods far from glass towers and guarded gates, through streets glowing with simple Christmas lights and laughter leaking from modest homes. His eyes caught something that made his heart ache in a way he didn't recognize. In a small community hall, barely holding together with old bricks and fading paint, warm light spilled out through the windows. Inside, he saw a simple Christmas party. Paper snowflakes hung unevenly from the ceiling, and a small tree stood in the corner, decorated with handmade ornaments. A father and a young boy were laughing near a folding table filled with food. The boy couldn't have been more than 8, his cheeks red with excitement as he tugged on his father's sleeve, begging him to dance. Ethan asked the driver to stop. He watched as the father gave in, setting down his paper plate and awkwardly dancing with his son. The boy laughed so hard he nearly fell over, and the father caught him, pulling him close. That moment, so small and ordinary, struck Ethan harder than any business loss ever had. His throat tightened. He didn't remember the last time someone laughed because of him, or held him just because they loved him. Before he could overthink it, Ethan stepped out of the car and walked toward the entrance. The laughter grew louder, wrapping around him like warmth he hadn't felt in years. He paused at the door, suddenly unsure of himself. For the first time in decades, Ethan Blackwood didn't know who he was without his title. The father noticed him standing there and gave a polite smile, the kind you offer a stranger without suspicion. Ethan swallowed and spoke softly, his voice almost breaking. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said, lowering his gaze, "but, can I join you?" The words surprised even him. The lonely CEO, who commanded boardrooms with a single look, stood there like a child asking permission. The father blinked, then smiled wider. "Of course," he said warmly. "Christmas is better when it's shared." That sentence hit Ethan harder than any rejection ever could. The boy looked up at Ethan with curious eyes. "Are you here alone?" he asked innocently. Ethan nodded. "Yes." "Well," the boy said, grabbing his hand without hesitation, "you don't have to be anymore." They introduced themselves. The father's name was Michael, a widower who worked 2 jobs to keep life stable for his son, Noah. The party wasn't anything fancy. It was organized by the local community to make sure no child spent Christmas alone. Ethan learned that Michael volunteered there every year, even when money was tight, because he believed showing up mattered more than anything else. Ethan sat with them, sharing food that tasted better than any 5-star meal he'd ever had. Noah proudly showed him the ornament he made for his dad, a lopsided star with glue still visible. Michael watched his son with a tired but fulfilled smile, the kind that comes from loving deeply despite hardship. As the night went on, Ethan found himself laughing. Really laughing. He danced awkwardly, spilled punch on his coat, and didn't care. He told Noah stories about growing up, about his father, about how life didn't turn out the way he thought it would. Michael listened without judgment, only nodding, understanding more than words could say. Later that evening, when the music softened and children grew sleepy, Ethan felt a familiar ache return. He knew this night would end, and he feared waking up alone again. Sensing this, Michael placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're welcome back anytime," he said simply. That night, Ethan returned to his penthouse, but it didn't feel the same. For the first time, the silence wasn't empty, it was thoughtful. He lay awake, replaying Noah's laughter and Michael's kindness. Something inside him shifted, like a door cracking open. In the weeks that followed, Ethan began visiting the community center regularly. At first, quietly, anonymously. He donated supplies, fixed broken heaters, and eventually funded programs that kept the place alive. But more importantly, he showed up. He helped with homework, listened to stories, and slowly became part of something real. His board noticed changes. Ethan was more patient, more human. He restructured his company policies, prioritizing families, time off, and mental health. Profits didn't fall as people feared, they rose. Employees worked harder because they felt seen. One evening, Noah asked Ethan, "Why didn't you have kids?" Ethan paused before answering. "I was too busy building a life," he said quietly, "and forgot to live it." Michael's health took a turn the following year, and Ethan didn't hesitate. He was there every step of the way, ensuring medical care, sitting by hospital beds, holding hands in silence. When Michael recovered, he wept openly, not from fear, but from gratitude. On another Christmas Eve, 1 year later, Ethan stood in that same community hall. This time, he wasn't an outsider. He was family. Noah ran up to him, calling him Uncle Ethan, and hugged him tight. Michael smiled, eyes full of emotion. As they gathered around the tree, Noah handed Ethan a small wrapped gift. Inside was a handmade ornament, a star much like the one from the year before, but this time, his name was written on it. "For you," Noah said. "So you never feel alone again." Ethan's hands trembled as he placed it on the tree. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and warmth, he realized success wasn't about how high you climbed, but who was willing to sit beside you when you whispered, "Can I join you?" And if this story reminded you that kindness still exists, that connection can change everything, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes, the smallest invitation can lead to the greatest transformation, and sometimes, all it takes to save a lonely heart is the courage to ask, and the love to say yes.